Hello and welcome to Wet Liberal Weekly, and yes, it is rant-matic time. This is going to be rant-tastic. Let me start right at the beginning. The term eco and car. Those two words by definition mutually exclude each other. There is no such thing, there can be no such thing as an eco and a car. It doesn't matter what powers it, it doesn't matter what it's made of, it doesn't matter what you do with it, it is not an ecological object. It is a piece of high technology gubbins, and there's nothing you can do to make it ecological. And when I hear those accusatory terms from certain people, oh, let's have a look at a cycling, sandal-wearing, tofu-munching eco car. I won't be using that bit. There's one fucking thing this week that's just got me so fucking angry. It's time it was expressed in a clear and reasonable fashion. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is a rant to beat all rants, and what's it about? It's about top fucking gear. I'll cut that bit out too, just getting it out of my system. The most recent episode, which was on Sunday night, featured two reviews of two different cars. One was the Tesla, which I've mentioned many times before. It's a battery-powered electric sports car built in California. The most important thing about it is it's much cheaper to drive, which Jeremy Clarkson, for all his many faults, and they are the size of a mountain range, he did acknowledge that. It costs pence to fill that car with its electricity, whereas it cost £40 to fill the tank of the very small sports car that it was racing against. He then, so he acknowledged all that, and then he went and trashed it. That's fine. I'd never expected him to give it a good review. I wasn't surprised, and he did acknowledge that it was a very important step. So that is your electric, battery-powered electric car. So the alternative that we are offered by the major motor manufacturers, and when you hear that term, always put in brackets afterwards, the oil companies. The major motor manufacturers is we're going to transfer from fossil fuels to hydrogen. And that was the second part of the Top Gear episode. A man called James May, obviously a very well-educated and intelligent man, went and tried to drive a Honda hydrogen-powered car. What you do with that is you insert high-pressure hydrogen, a highly explosive gas, into the back of the car. This then goes through a fuel cell which generates electricity, which drives the vehicle along. Very, very clever piece of technology. Important point. Incredibly expensive piece of technology. They go on about the Tesla, which costs nearly £90,000, over $100,000. And then they compared that to the Honda. They didn't tell us how much it cost because you can't buy one. The one hydrogen car I've driven, developed by BMW, cost them, BMW, £3.75 million fucking pounds. That's how much a hydrogen car costs. So don't fucking tell me that a battery-powered car costs £100,000 and it's so expensive only rich people can afford it. Even rich people can't afford a fucking hydrogen car. Point one. Point two, very fucking important. Why do the major motor manufacturers want us to drive hydrogen cars? Major motor manufacturers, brackets, petrol and oil companies. Very important point. I'm having so much fun doing this rant. The first time I heard about the hydrogen car was in 1973. Ford announced that within 15 years we would all be driving hydrogen cars. In 1985, General Motors announced that within 15 years we'd all be driving hydrogen cars. In 2006, General Motors, Ford, Chrysler, Honda, Volkswagen, BMW, Audi all announced that we would soon be driving hydrogen cars between the next 10 to 15 years. Let me tell you, we will never fucking drive hydrogen cars. And why? Because they don't fucking want you to, because they want you to carry on buying oil and petrol and fossil fuels. What are the petrol companies? Fucking stupid? I don't think so. They are the single corporations on the face of the planet that make fucking shed loads of money. They have the most influence in all governments around the world. They are the most powerful institutions in the fucking world. And are they going to go, Oh, fair enough, stop buying our product, go and buy a battery-powered car, that's much better. There's the choice. You have a choice between having a car that you plug into the wall, in whatever way you do that, or you have a choice of a car that you fill with hydrogen. These are the two choices that we're faced with at the moment. If they're powered by battery, think about it for a minute, who is going to benefit from that in terms of large corporations? Not the oil companies. Now, if you just simply plug your car in, the only person that's benefiting from that is the power companies. It's cut a huge, powerful, multinational, politically active, lobbying pressure group, the oil companies, the oil producing nations. It's cut them out of the equation instantaneously. If we all start plugging our cars into the wall, there's only one way to describe those companies. They are fucked. So how on earth can they stop us doing that? Well, one thing, they can constantly badger the press, the people in the media to say battery cars don't work, battery cars don't work, battery cars don't work, battery cars don't work. When all the time there's fucking thousands of people around the world driving in battery cars going very quietly, battery cars do work, they do work. You can drive a battery car. I'm driving a battery car. It's really good. It goes a really long way. Thomas Edison, the man who invented the electric light bulb, here's a very important thing. He lived in a building called Llewellyn Mansion. We're talking 1908, which was completely electrically powered. He had a wind generator in his garden. Can you believe it? Electricity was stored in lead acid batteries, huge ranks of them. And do you know what was in his garage? An electric Model T Ford. All electric, battery-powered electric Model T Ford with a range, 1908, of 80 miles. That was further than you could drive on a tank of gas at that time. The history is long and complex. Where does the hydrogen come from? We know that the power that powers this battery can come from nuclear, coal, oil, natural gas powered, or solar, or wind, or hydro. There's multiple choices of where that electricity comes from. We know where it comes from. There's plenty of arguments around it. Where does this hydrogen come from? Where does it come from, James May? Where does the hydrogen come from? I'll tell you where it comes from. It comes from water. It comes from passing phenomenal amounts of electricity through water, cracking the water, splitting the hydrogen from the oxygen. It uses stunning, jaw-dropping, arse-opening amounts of electricity to produce hydrogen. So you're putting a phenomenal amount of energy into this process and you release some hydrogen. You then pressurize the hydrogen and you sell it to people and you put it in their tank of their hydrogen fuel cell car that costs £3.2 million. There is nothing wrong with using hydrogen, except where does it come from? Who is making it? Who's making the money out of it? So if you do the sums, I'll try and fit it in the screen. Here is the amount of electricity we would need to run battery-powered vehicles. And here is the amount of electricity we would need to run hydrogen vehicles. Who do you think is going to make that money? Is it going to be the government? Is it going to be some social workers? Some tofu-eating, hand-knitted yogurt, hippie wankers living in their fucking commune? I don't think so. I think it's going to be the petrochemical industry. Anyway, Lou-tubers, YouTubers, and wet liberal weekliers, I really hope that you've got something from my ludicrous Top Gear inspired rant. I promise that on the next Wet Liberal Weekly I do, I will not mention cars or Jeremy Clarkson or Top Gear or anything to do with that. I want to talk about human relationships, nurturing, child rearing, parenthood, education, anything other than fucking cars, because eco cars are bollocks. Anyway, if you have been, I thank you for listening.